After 4 years of hard work, the brave base-building beavers have finally dammed the Great Early Access River. Or, as normal people would say it, Timberborn is a freshly launched city builder where you play as actual beavers. With hats. Now if you're anything like me, that immediately raises a few questions. Is this actually fun, or just a gimmick that runs out of steam after the first dam? Do you need a master's degree in beaverology to get into it, and is there enough here to keep you coming back once the novelty wears off? And the answer to that begins with another question. What are beavers famous for? Building dams, chewing through trees, and being adorable while doing it. Which, conveniently enough, is exactly what Timberborn is all about. Every building, every tool, every scrap of industry runs on wood. And the whole system is powered by dams. And unlike most city builders where the water might as well be an instant death trap, for beavers it's just another highway. Put all of that together and you get a city builder with a ton of personality. I especially love the building designs, as the heavy emphasis on wood makes it genuinely feel like a world built by sentient beavers. Nothing sticks out of place, nothing feels oddly human, so even though the visuals are fairly simple, Timberborn ends up being very pleasing on the eyes. But there is a small catch. Despite nailing the theme, the atmosphere is perhaps a bit too subdued. Even with dozens of factories running and beavers gnawing their way through trees, all you really hear is the faint creaking of wind turbines. It is just strange. But is it a big issue? Honestly, not really, as building a beaver utopia is surprisingly addictive. Why? Because everything takes time. The best trees take 30 days to grow, and the crops take a full week. Which means that when a shortage happens, you cannot just wave a magic wand and make it go away. You have to predict the problem and solve it before it even happens. And if you don't, well, let's just say there'll be a lot of belligerent beavers in your future. But does this mean that playing Timberborn is about as pleasant as chewing through wood? Thankfully, no. The difficulty is fairly high, especially early on, but you've always got enough tools to claw your way back from the brink, even if you lose a bunch of beavers and everything looks doomed. The secret here is the game's very robust prioritization system. While you cannot control each beaver individually, you can make sure that crucial buildings and resources get taken care of first before anyone else runs off to construct nonsense like robo-beavers. Because of this, I always felt in control. There was never a moment where I wanted to hurl my monitor out of the window over a worker doing something stupid. They did exactly as they were told when they were told. And for a challenging game, that is a very big deal, especially during the drought or bad water seasons. Depending on your relationship with stress, these are either the most exciting parts of the game or something that could very much so drive you insane. What happens is that either the entire river dries out for a whole week, or toxic sludge starts oozing across the entire map. But thankfully, you have a bunch of beavers at your disposal, so you can prepare by creating artificial reservoirs to help survive the drought, or just channel the bad water down pathways you don't really care about while your beavers watch in horror as the landscape quite literally rots away. But regardless of how well it goes, you always get the pleasure of watching life slowly return to the valley, a sight that I will always pause everything in order to enjoy. And that right there is Timberborn's difficulty in a nutshell. It'll smack you around if you're not careful, but if you figure out the puzzle and do the right things, you will be richly rewarded. But does the game actually teach you how to handle all of this complexity, or are you just thrown to the beaver wolves? And the answer is yes to both. There is a structured tutorial that will guide you through the very basics, and I would highly recommend you go through it because Timberborn does a couple of things very differently than most city builders. For example, your beavers exclusively move along roads, both on the ground and in water, which means that expanding far from your base comes with a lot of prerequisites. It really reinforces the game's plan ahead or suffer kind of philosophy. So what's the problem? The tutorial is extremely short, and once it's over, you're left completely on your own, in a city builder where literally every building is available from the very start. I mean, sure, you have to spend science to unlock them, but they're all there on your build menu, just taunting you as you try to figure out what you're even supposed to do next. And that is a real shame because Timberborn has a lot of fun complexity just waiting to be discovered. There is a completely optional set of automation tools that let you essentially program how buildings, including massive dams, will behave. You can do stuff like make a factory run until you reach a certain stockpile, then shut itself off to avoid overproducing. And for a big ol' optimization focused lunatic like me, that right there is basically heaven on earth. It just sucks that getting there requires a lot of blind fumbling around, because once everything clicks, Timberborn becomes a very different and very addictive kind of game. Also, quite a scary one too, because once Timberborn gets its hooks into you, it is almost impossible to quit. You might spend hours perfecting one big project, and then another will suddenly become available and you'll lose yourself in that. And then a giant drought will hit and you'll be forced to scramble around in a blind panic trying to shore up your defenses before everything collapses. And then, as soon as that is over, something new will catch your eye and you won't even notice you've somehow blazed right past 3 in the morning. So yeah, this is one of those games. My sleep schedule had no chance. But as always, there is a catch. While Timberborn gives you a lot of tools to make complex tasks easier, doing the most basic stuff can be surprisingly tedious. You cannot just plonk a building on top of some random saplings and expect your beavers to just pave over it automatically. You have to manually order their destruction, bump up the priority so it actually gets done in a reasonable time frame, and only then can you actually place the building where you wanted it. It's the kind of thing that makes you feel less like a visionary city planner and more like a middle manager that nobody in the office really respects. But the reason any of this matters is that Timberborn is the kind of game you're going to be playing for a very long time. Each run takes a while to complete, and that is if you don't turn your city into a wasteland along the way. So even if you never change a setting, you can still get a lot of hours out of it. But if you do change things, oh boy, you won't be leaving the house anytime soon. Because not only does the game have 2 distinct factions of beavers, one eco-friendly and the other heavily industrial, but there's also a ton of different maps, each with their own sets of challenges for you to overcome. And if you don't like any of them, you can even make your own. And it's not even particularly hard. But if you're like me and you don't really feel like doing any kind of work, you can also download maps other people made, or, more importantly, grab a bunch of mods and try those, some of which can even fix many of the gripes I mentioned before. The only catch is that there is no story or campaign to explore. You're going to be playing purely for the pleasure of it, making up your own goals and ideas as you go along. It's not something I personally mind, but just be warned. When Timberborn calls itself a sandbox city builder, it really does mean every single word of that. Which brings us to the most important question. Would I recommend Timberborn? Yes, but not for everyone. Despite its appearance, this isn't a cute and cuddly city builder where you get to watch your beavers frolic in the river. It is a challenging survival experience where the deck is stacked against you, but at the same time, you're given all the tools you need to rip up the cards and eat the table. And that right there is what makes it special. Because every time Timberborn beats you, you know exactly where you messed up and how to fix it for next time. Which also means that when you get it right and watch disaster just sail past your base, the glory is all yours. You alone made it happen. So if you're in the mood for getting humbled by a game about beavers with funny hats, Timberborn is well worth trying. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, a like and a sub would help me out a lot, and I do hope to see you again soon. Bye bye!